It's a bird, it's a plane, it's Superman Legacy, the first superhero movie of a new era of DC.
Hey, look who's back!
That's right, with James Gunn and Peter Safran taking over as co-CEOs of DC Studios, they're pretty much rebooting the DC universe.
You lunatics better know what you're doing.
And it all begins with the OG superhero himself.
I'm here to help, but it has to be on my own terms.
So let's run down what we know about the upcoming super flick and how it leads to the greater reinvention of the DC universe. With Superman Legacy acting as the flagship movie of this new DCU, it's important to get it right, which is why James Gunn has taken on the task of writing and directing it himself. We don't know the plot of the movie just yet, but thematically, Safran told Deadline that the movie, quote, focuses on Superman balancing his Kryptonian heritage with his human upbringing. He is the embodiment of truth, justice, and the American way. He is kindness in a world that thinks kindness is old-fashioned. To give fans an idea of what to expect, Gunn showed the comic book All-Star Superman by Grant Morrison and Frank Quitely, which is considered by comic readers to be one of the best Superman stories ever told. The story sees Superman get some super bad news. He's dying from radiation poisoning and only has 1 year to live, so he sets out to complete the 12 labors of Superman to better humankind as much as he can before he expires. And he finally acts on his feelings for Lois by revealing his secret identity. In order to start with a fresh slate, James Gunn is telling a story about a younger Superman, but it's not an origin story, so that means casting a younger Clark Kent and Lois Lane. Both roles have been cast, with Pearl's David Corwenswet playing the Man of Steel.
And for a super, that can mean...
I'm sorry, a what?
Oh, a supernumerary? A supernumerary?
And the marvelous Mrs. Maisel herself, Rachel Brosnahan, playing the Daily Planet's top reporter.
And then the argument actually happens and they're reasonable, but that's not how you rehearsed it, so you become the jerk.
We haven't heard the official word on the villain yet, but reports say Nicholas Hoult and both of the Skarsgård brothers are being considered for Lex Luthor. Superman will join a world already populated with superheroes. Isabella Merced has been cast as Hawkgirl, Eddie Gathegi will be Mr. Terrific, Anthony Kerrigan is Metamorpho, and fan favorite Nathan Fillion is playing Green Lantern Guy Gardner. We also know that the Authority Super Team will be introduced in the film ahead of their movie. Superman Legacy will act as a launch pad for the new DCU, kicking off Chapter 1 titled Gods and Monsters. Other upcoming projects include a Batman Brave and the Bold movie introducing Bruce's son, Damian, a Themyscira TV show called Paradise Lost, said to be like DC's Game of Thrones, and an animated series, Creature Commandos, starring Frankenstein, his wife, and Weasel. Hey, he survived! All of these projects will be connected and slowly unveil a mystery that connects the entire DCU, building to something big. To see how this all pans out, we'll have to wait until Superman Legacy flies into theaters on July 11th, 2025. Until then, let's do the Daily Planet proud by sleuthing around for some answers to these big questions.
This looks like a job for Superman.
Were the right actors cast as Superman and Lois? Can James Gunn find the right balance between Superman's story and setting up the larger DCU? And, most importantly, should Superman have trunks or no trunks? Let's discuss.
Yes, the most important question about Superman is his underwear, and to help me get to the bottoms of that, pun definitely intended, are my Daily Planet ace reporters, Kim Horcher, Joshua Yehl. Welcome. How's it going?
Good.
Good, super.
There's no time for small talk. Trunks, no trunks, shorts?
Yeah, definitely, yes, trunks.
Trunks.
Yeah. No, I'm agreed on that. I think it's time, you know?
It's unanimous.
Yeah.
Bring it
Wolverine
back.
in the yellow spandex, put Superman in his underpants. We need this to happen. But yeah, no, let's talk the big picture, Superman Legacy. This is not an origin story. He's hitting the ground running or hitting the sky flying, whatever. It's a populated universe that already has a bunch of superheroes in it. How do we feel about that, Joshua?
I feel that's a good idea. Skip the origin, just get right into it. He's already in a DC universe populated with lots of heroes, and just meeting him at a younger, more formative time in his superhero career. I think that's smart, right? I think James Gunn knows his comic books. He knows the state of superhero movies and how audiences feel about all that stuff. So I think he's taking the right approach if you're going to make a new Superman movie now.
Absolutely. I mean, Joshua and I were talking off camera and saying, we're tired of origin stories. There are a few origin stories we can just skip. Superman is one of them. Let's get into the action. Let's establish this new tone. I've been watching My Adventures with Superman. I've been really enjoying how earnest and sweet it is. I like a nice Superman. I like to watch a Boy Scout or a good boy, and I'm ready for this guy.
Again, it's also like, this is Superman. He's been around for a minute. We've seen some origin stories. Like, if Spider-Man can get dropped in the MCU with, no ado, it's just get to it. Like, I think that's totally fair game with Superman. Now, the other thing is a bunch of other characters are going to be popping up in this. Some of these I feel like somewhat well-known. Other ones, maybe not so much. Joshua, who's popping up here, and what do we make of all that?
Right. Well, it's Mr. Terrific, Hawkgirl, Guy Gardner, and Metamorpho, that is a very James Gunnsian list of DC supporting players, which, yeah, they're all going to show up in the Superman Legacy movie, and the Authority super team is also going to be in there, going to be introduced in some way, which I think immediately makes you go, oh, okay, whoa, that's a lot of movies, cinematic universes have gotten ahead of themselves, and that's been something that tripped them up. The DCEU, that really awkward introduction of the Justice League on the laptop, and even Marvel and Iron Man 2, that one's heavily criticized for putting the setup of the MCU ahead of the story actually being told in the movie. So you definitely get those vibes, but James Gunn, I think he knows what he's doing, and I don't imagine that these will take away from the story. I imagine Superman is sort of randomly encountering these people as he's saving the day. Like, he's stopping a meteor shower, and he just says, "Hey, Guy Gardner, Green Lantern," maybe it was a quick conversation, and then he goes off and does something else, and stops a plane from crashing with Hawkgirl. And I think it'll probably be something that naturally happens and shows how the DC universe is already populated with all these characters.
I wanted Nathan Fillion to be Booster Gold, but I think he might be a little old for the role. And, he's been cast as Hal Jordan before, but now he's Guy Gardner, the jerkier Green Lantern. But I wonder if that means maybe he'll just not be part of Lanterns on Max, and he'll pop in here and there in the future to come.
I think he probably would show up on Lanterns on Max,
really,
right? Yeah.
But not as a main character, just
Perhaps. Or maybe a supporting player.
as the big surprise sometimes.
Yeah.
The treat we get.
Yeah,
perhaps.
The big question of this being sort of too overstuffed, I feel like we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves. And I think some of this is definitely a little bit of stunt casting. I think it's getting people talking, it's creating buzz without actually having to show us anything. But it reminds me a little bit of the quote-unquote X-Force in Deadpool 2, which didn't really stick around for too long, if you know what I'm talking about. But having a bunch of big names attached to things, and ultimately it's a little bit of fan service, kind of like we saw with John Krasinski in Multiverse of Madness. It's sort of, people just want to see that. People have been trying to fan cast Nathan Fillion as a Green Lantern for quite some time, and this feels like very much a kind of wink and a nod. But yeah, I mean, I have faith that Gunn can kind of build this up. But yeah, let's get back to sort of Superman as a focus. They've described him as being just really emphasizing kindness. This isn't Superman in a black costume who's fighting all his friends. This is the the truth and justice and upholding the American dream. This is the guy you want to go up and give a hug to. What do we think about that?
That's all I want. That's all I've ever wanted. It's just that simple. I mean, we've been kind of scared of earnestness and kindness and goodness, oh, it's corny. Let's take away his underwear. Let's make him scary now. But, yeah, that's a weird sentence now that I've heard it out of my mouth. But I like this version of Superman. I want him to be the corny version.
Yeah, it's weird because in a weird way, I think audiences want a more earnest Superman because, again, a big criticism of the MCU is that they're always quick to make a joke and don't let characters be a little corny or earnest. So I think they really just want a good, true, just honest guy. He's kind of like DC's Captain America. And people really did gravitate towards Chris Evans' performance in that. So I think David Corwenswet, he can be a little corny, and we like it.
Yeah, no, I feel like he's sort of an unknown enough quantity that I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. The one I'm excited about is Rachel Brosnahan, the marvelous Midge Maisel, as Lois Lane, which what do you think that casting tells us about where they're going with that character?
I think she's going to be a blast. I think she's going to be super funny, and nothing against David, but I thought that was the casting. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. This is what's going to give the movie its lifeblood and energy, and yeah, I'm super excited.
I haven't seen that show, but I have thoughts about who she should be. I want her to be kind of a jerk. I want her to call him Smallville. Every woman reporter gets excited about Lois Lane, and I'm excited about Lois Lane.
You should check out Mrs. Maisel. I'm excited just based on that. I think that's really cool. We have heard some villain casting. NoHo Hank as Metamorpho, just wonderful. But Lex Luthor is the big one, and we've heard some kind of rumblings. What bad guys do you? I feel like we've seen Lex Luthor done. Like what do we want to see for bad guys, for the big bad?
James Gunn posted on Twitter. Someone asked him, "Who are your favorite kind of underrated Superman villains?" And he said Parasite. I think that one would be great. Just this power-sucking monster that takes the power of Superman from him, and he has it for a time, and uses that against him to wreak havoc across Metropolis. And I think that would be a cool, something different kind of hero. Or maybe they do the layered, tiered hero villain thing, like in Batman Begins, where he's just sort of like a pawn that Luthor uses. Because in All-Star Superman, Luthor gives himself Superman's powers. Maybe he gets it by using Parasite.
Okay. All right, so rapid fire. What is the best fan theory that you think, the direction you think this is going, Kim?
I don't know any fan theories.
Just going in cold completely?
Yeah.
Okay, Joshua, you got me?
It's called Superman Legacy, right? And then I'm also thinking of how Batman Brave and the Bold, that Batman is going to have a kid, Damian Wayne. When you leave behind a legacy, it's your children.
Oh.
What if Superman has a kid, right? The super sons of Superboy and Robin. That's a thing, right? So maybe that's what James Gunn is setting up. He's giving all the superheroes kids.
Are we going to just destroy the Superman and Lois TV show canon then?
Where they have two kids?
Yeah, there's two, and one of them's bad.
Yeah. I mean, who knows? We'll see. But I think kids are the future, right? Marvel's doing Young Avengers. They're going to beat them to the punch.
Okay.
We've been waiting for that for like 20 years. It still hasn't happened.
We've seen that thing with superhero movies where they often have they have a title that suggests a certain thing, and it's not exactly the same beats as the comic. Like, do you think this could be some sort of sleight of hand misdirection to get you thinking that way, and then it just takes you throws you for a loop?
Yeah, potentially. I don't know. Usually, after you see the movie, you're like, oh, I see why it was called that. But it's hard to say up front. But I do think that it will mean something, and mean something really important to Superman, because that's not a pre-existing comic book that he's adapting. So I think he's got a very specific idea in mind, and we'll have to see what it is. I think it's a kid.
Okay, all right, fair enough. Well, I just hope he's wearing underpants, both the kid and his dad, whatever. Well, we got plenty of time. That movie's still a ways off. Superman isn't the only superhero at Comic-Con. Far from it. We've got tons more comic book coverage ahead here on IGN's San Diego Comic-Con live show, so don't go up and away, because we will be right back.